Hey, Coach, just give us a preview of today's game and what you've seen from Chicago going into it.
Well, you can look at statistics and see how much they run, how quickly they get the ball across half court. I think that coincides with getting in the paint, the way that they drive the ball. So they're going to put a lot of pressure, on our perimeter defenders to stand in front of the ball. And if there's going to be times in the game where they do drive the ball, and our help and our rotations just on those drives have to be really tight. We've got to shore up the paint, so protecting the paint. And oftentimes when you play a team that runs like they do, you talk about it, and then you get out of the game and you feel it. And so ideally you're doing it from the jump, but what you have to understand is they're going to do it throughout the course of the game. So you can't let up in that regard.
Coach, to that point, you just kind of touched on it, but with the way Chicago wants to run and the way that they want to run off makes and misses, how do you slow them down early and limit some of those paint touches, especially with that perimeter defense you just talked about?
Yeah, you have to have, it can't be, no one can guard one-on-one in transition. So, everybody's got to get back. And once you're back as well, you've got to be, shifted and not let them see daylight, which means you can't be running to your man in transition. And, these are things that get talked about, get worked on, and the focus and the commitment have to be there to execute.
You discussed the rotation element a little bit the other night with Trey coming back, but what is the overall challenge of trying to incorporate him back in the offense, particularly when it's one game in, one game out as he ramps up?
Hopefully, his minutes and playing consecutive games will continue to evolve as he's back more. We had a good chunk of practice. He wasn't able to take part in those practices, so there is a real acclimation process that you just have to continue to work on, to know that it's going to take some time. And that doesn't mean you don't have urgency on pushing that forward. I think he'll continue to get in better condition. Guys, no matter how connected you are when you play a certain stretch of games, teams evolve. And now we've got to evolve again. And, that adaptation is something you continue to work on, try to drill down on, use on film, and just keep grinding away at it. And know that it's going to be a process, but that's not an out for what it is today or tomorrow or the next day.
Coach, since the beginning of the season, you've had a number of injuries to players that maybe weren't in the opening day or playing rotation, and in your roster, two-way guys. In what ways does that impact you, and how much does it impact you?
It's fair. It can be significant. I think in this case, there's a ripple effect where, for instance, if Trey and KP aren't playing, how do you manage depth in those positions so that suddenly guys step up, and they have stepped up. We had a situation the other night, Phil Offel for him, but Dante. We've had some guys in those spots that have early in the year, some of our wings miss games, Luke missed games, Beat missed games. So it means the guys that are playing, have to sometimes have to play more minutes, and it also means that they have to be ready to do different things. Whether that means guard a different position than you're used to, it means someone's bringing the ball up the floor. Whatever the case is, we haven't seen two bigs in a sense with Kristaps and O. So, his Kristaps' ability, just to create shots, on the post or stretch the defense. O's giving us that. It's been good to see Asa and Mo. Be able to me, it's as much as anything as those guys really aggressively taking the shots. And then when you get guys back, minutes start to change the other way, and there's an adjustment again. So I think it's a process, and as you mentioned, depth becomes something that you may have for a stretch, and regardless of who's out, but when you lose, starters, and then you also lose depth, it becomes more challenging. Excuse me.
You might have been asked this a couple of times, so apologies if you have, but just whether it's with Dice or more broadly, what have you sort of learned about, or how can you help guys that are going through sort of extended stretches, struggling to shoot the ball to the point where it might become, being dared to shoot, as he kind of looks like he has been a couple of times?
Yeah, it's that too, I think, is a process. Excuse me. This makes it a little louder. The important thing is we want him to continue to shoot. And that said, some of the things that that he does, regardless of how people are defending him, his ability to attack the paint, get his eyes out, transition has been a situation where he's been, I think, most effective doing that. Using him as a screener, again, regardless of who's matched up on him, recognizing those coverages. Does he need to get a crack and hold the screen? Is there a roll opportunity in a short roll where he can get to his floater, dribble handoff to different guys? So I think the quick decisions are what really becomes important. And that's something that we really try to emphasize with all our guys, is to make quick decisions. And if you have an advantage that isn't necessarily large enough to take a shot, how can you not give that back? How can you extend it where it does end up with a better shot?
Very good.
Okay.